So I thanked him for it, and I explained I was a college student. Later on, though, it was such a contrast because we spent the next year applying to hundreds of different positions, searching out for a job. How odd that one job comes and finds you, but any other job, you have to look for them 100 times over. Well, I think the opportunities to fulfill these commandments are the same way. They're not just going to fall in our lap. We have to search them out. So what do we as United Methodists do in this community? Well, I think in order to go on this journey, we should build a knapsack. We should build a knapsack and see what we're going to put in it. And the first thing we're due is called to attend to those who are hungry and thirsty. So let's put that in our knapsack. And Keys, I apologize. This is an OSU glass. All right. We'll put that in our knapsack. Over the past couple of months, through your donations with food, you've been able to feed about 10 families over the past couple of months. That's around 50 people you've been able to feed. By the way, you also gave 6 turkeys and 6 hams around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And there were 2 families with children that were able to buy some gifts for their children around Christmas because of your donations. So continue to keep the food coming. Continue to keep your giving coming. And what about clothing the naked? We need to bring some clothing for that. And we know we do that too. We do that through our warm hugs for little tigers. Over the past few months, you've been able to put several coats in our closet, but specifically 15 children were given coats thus far. And that's really exciting to think about because even though it's beautiful right now, think about a few days ago or a few weeks ago how cold it was. Those kids aren't allowed to go out during recess if they don't have a coat. So there's 15 children that got to go play outside because of you all. So let's keep that coming too. Now let's move on to visiting the sick. What do we need to do that? Well, I think the best thing we can do is put a watch in there. We need to donate our time to that. We need to donate our time. This past Thursday, I sit down. We usually sit and chat a little while, and I ask her how she's feeling, and she asked how the church is going. This time was a little different, though. I went there, and she was unusually kind of fidgety and sort of wanting to really tell me something. And I said, okay, well, she asked me how I was doing, and I no sooner said, well, and she popped out and said, well, recently I got to see Ruth Ann, and I got to see Erlene, and I got to see Dina. She was so excited to tell me that, so excited. And I'll tell you that her memory isn't quite what it used to be. Sometimes she has a little trouble remembering what she had for lunch. But I mean this, and I'm not exaggerating. She remembers the last time you visited them. She remembers when you visited. Every time. You see, to those who are sick or homebound, it is such a joy to see people. In fact, today our closing hymn is actually Marie Karen's favorite hymn. That's why we're singing it in her honor today. But it's such a joy for those folks to be visited. So I encourage you to visit them. Show them some company. And if you think, well, what am I supposed to say while I'm there? What do I do? Well, don't worry about that. That's not a problem at all. See, there are folks in our community who really would be happy just to listen to you read a phone book. There are a lot of lonely people here. So go and visit. There are few things in life that will ever be as rewarding and require so little work as visiting a homebound person. Now that we've come to that, let's talk about welcoming the stranger. And for that, I have a little rake here. Okay? I'm going to tell you why I have a rake. We're going to put that in there. As far as welcoming the stranger, without a doubt, I think most of us, if anyone came through our doors, our church doors, or our doors in our home or into our lives, we would certainly welcome them. We would invite them in and thank them for coming. But here's the thing. The Greek word here is synagogue. It's very close to the word synagogue, and it literally means to gather, not really welcome. It means to gather in the stranger. And let me demonstrate. And actually, Michael, can I pick on you for a minute? Can you stand up for a second? All right. Yeah, come on. To gather in a stranger. Now, if I were to go to Michael and say, Michael, I had kind of a rough day. I think I need a hug. And I did this. Okay, Michael, I'm ready for a hug. It's a little awkward, right? But soon it means to gather in, to reach out and gather in. I'll take that hug now. Right. That's what this means, to reach out and gather in. That's why we use the rake. It means simply going beyond just not stopping someone from coming into your life, but reaching out to them and bringing them in. Gathering people into our lives. So go out and reach out to people you don't know. Reach out to people you don't know very well and welcome them into your life. Gather the stranger. Don't just welcome them. Now the final piece here is to visit the imprisoned. And for that we have a lock here. But it's a lock with no key, and I'll tell you why. It's a lock with no key. You see, I think there are two main difficulties with a lot of folks why it's difficult to attend to prison ministry. I think the first thing is often we associate the word ministering and condoning. We assume they're the same thing, but they're not. See, to minister to the imprisoned is a deep part of the United Methodist heritage. John Wesley used to ruffle a lot of feathers visiting the imprisoned, but he never excused something that someone did. He never tried to undo justice. He never tried to spring anyone. That's why we don't have a key here. Ministering isn't about condoning behavior. In fact, besides bringing prisoners Christian literature, John Wesley would even preach at them through the bars with great passion and zeal, trying to get them convicted of their own sins. Can you imagine that? It's pretty easy to preach at somebody because when they're behind bars, they don't like what you're saying. They really can't go anywhere. The idea of sitting there for hours on end getting preached to, I think that probably qualifies as cruel and unusual punishment. But the second reason I think we have trouble often attending to this ministry is because we may not have an opportunity to do so. A lot of us may not know people who regularly go to jail or prison, so it's kind of harder to do that. But we do have a couple of opportunities, though. We know of the Kairos ministry that this church historically has done so much. But there's another ministry that I will invite you all to think about and pray about. Every summer, I direct a camp called New Day. I think most of you know. New Day is a camp for children who have one or more parents who are incarcerated. I would invite you all to think about and pray about working with that camp this summer. It's going to be in July. I want you to think about it. We already have a couple of people who are going to donate their time. Lisa and Amanda have volunteered for this camp. And I want to tell you, it is probably going to be the longest week of your life. It's also going to be the shortest week of your life. The shortest week because it requires so much patience and difficulty, but at the same time you think, I wish I had more time. So I invite you all to think about that and pray about that. That's in July. I also wanted to let you know, next Sunday we've just been given another opportunity to do some good in the world. Most of us know that Larry Ralden is in some bad shape. And right now his wife Lenore, right? She's having some trouble and needs a little bit of gas money, so we're going to take a love offering for that next week. I will invite you all to dig into your souls and think about that and ponder that and pray about that and how we can help with that. So as you go into the world this week, especially tomorrow on Martin Luther King Day, go into the world and do justice. Go into the world and search out those opportunities for people who need what you have. Go into the world and do God's righteous justice. As Martin Luther King himself said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Amen.